Hello and welcome to GameGuru MAX live broadcast number 100. That's right, girls and gals and boys and men. Episode 100. We got there in the end. And this is a rather special one, as you can see with our brand new lovely splash. We have jazzed up visuals from this broadcast onwards. Let's just say the first 99 broadcasts were practices. But I'm still not comfortable with our sound tests. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me loud and proud. And if I get a nod from the community in the live chat, those lucky enough to join us live, can you just let me know that you can hear me? Yes, thank you, great, wonderful. I can move on with the introduction. And of course, anyone familiar with our broadcast knows it's split into two sections. We have a demo part, and then we have a Q&A. And because this is broadcast 100, I'm going to treat everyone to an extended Q&A. That means I will stick around and answer all of the questions that you have today, those lucky enough to join us live, until the questions get silly. Until there really ain't no more questions, or the questions asked are either repeated or just plain silly. But we'll have plenty of time. It has been suggested that we make a broadcast that's 100 minutes long, but I did a quick back of the napkin math. That's an hour and a half. That's ridiculous. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to duck out soon if there's still questions, good questions on the board. So hopefully we'll have a great broadcast 100. And to continue the razzmatazz, let's call it, I'm going to show you some more lovely screens. As you can see, we are going to segment our broadcast into little sections. This is now the demo section. This is where I get to demonstrate something. And what I want to demonstrate this week is the particle editor, what it is, how to use it quickly, some of the next steps, and what we've been doing this week and last week to prepare for the release of the particle editor, which goes out this Friday. So check out that. If you don't already own the particle editor, we'll provide you with plenty of links and information on Friday. So if you are interested in what we show today, you can check that out on Friday. In addition to a build that supports the particle editor, but also includes other fixes as well. So you're still going to be able to get yourself a nice build come Friday at 4 p.m. BST or thereabouts. So let me show you what the particle editor is. I'm going to use an existing level called the Switch Escape, because this is one I created, the Switch Escape. I used it to show off a couple of things. One of them was particles, another one was some simple behaviors, and sort of a beginning, a middle, and an end experience of creating a game relatively quickly. And so this is the level I'm going to use in order to demonstrate adding particles on all the rest of it. So the first thing I want to do is introduce you to what is a particle. If you're brand new to GameGuru MAX, you probably don't even know what the particle is. So I want to show you that first. If you did buy the particle editor on Friday, you can find the particle editor in two places. You've got it here from the edit menu, which is the particle editor, and that goes straight into the particle editor. But I want to show you the second way of getting to it, because it's more in keeping with the flow that you will use more often than not as you are needing a particle, and you need a very specific one, and you're probably editing your level at the time. So I'm going to approach it from that perspective. But for those who don't know, you'll find it here. It's called Add Particle. It's part of the Game Elements menu, and you can just drop in this lovely looking widget. And you can move it around much like an object, and it has a default particle. But if you want to change all the elements of this particle game element, we've given you some local stuff. So we start with the purple one. There's a line, there's some green smoke. You can make it faster and more visible. That's a poison effect. You've got smoke, you've got the spray, you've got the flames and an explosion. More about that if someone reminds me about the explosion. Notice it only played once. Yeah. We have had the particle game element system in for some time, but one of the things that I've done last week and this week is gone through every bug in the issues board with particle tagged to it and fixed all the bugs. All apart from one, which is to do with transparency order. The way the engine currently does particles, it renders them all at once towards the end of the render pipeline. That's fine for most applications. You're usually in the room with the particle, and you don't really need to obstruct the particle. And solid objects can block the particles just fine. It's when you look at a particle through a window or through a series of windows or other transparent objects that things starts to fall apart, and that's because you can't render all the particles at the end. You have to render them back to front, so the furthest away object first, and then render in order all the way up to the player's camera. That's the only way you can render transparent things correctly when you look at it on the screen. And currently the particle system doesn't do that. So it's still a bug, but it's a bug that requires a lot of extra new code in order to include the particle system as part of the transparency list. And that's something I'll be doing, along with some other things and things you might want to see after we release the particle editor and the particle system improvements in the weeks and months to come. So this isn't the be-all and end-all. This is just our first version to get the particle editor out the door so you can start using particles in a slightly smarter way. So yeah, we've selected from our local selection. This is just what we've provided you with just so you can get started really quickly. So let's say I just picked some smoke, and wonderful. But if you click add new particle, you can see you've got more things to choose from. Not only have you got these 9, because we don't want to just blitz lots of particles here. If you want to sort of browse through, we've included a few more, just a splattering more of additional particles that you can use in your game. But as you start developing more sophisticated game levels, you're going to want quite a lot of different particles and subtle particles edited in slightly different ways. And for that reason, you need the particle editor. It's the one tool that lets you create, well, potentially a near infinite design of particle that fits your particular game model. And I want to show you how to do that. So we'll skip the default stuff. Obviously you can still use it, but I'm going to go straight to this. And remember before I said there's 2 ways to get into the particle editor? This is the second way. So if you just select a particle like that, you can add selected particle. You can go in and you can select that and add it to that particle game element you just saw. But if you've got the particle editor, this additional button shows up, create new particles. And when you select this, you get the particle editor. It's been previously installed. GameGuru MAX can detect that it's installed, and it gives you access to those buttons. It instantly shows up in GameGuru MAX and you can go straight in. Now, this is a rather sophisticated tool for creating particles. Sophisticated is code word for quite a lot of sliders, and you're going to have to do quite a lot of learning to create the particle that you want. Fortunately, the author, the original author, this is a third-party tool, TGC did not create it, anticipated that and created over 400, count them, different particles to choose from. It's highly likely the particle that you want for your game level is in here somewhere. And I imagine most new users will probably want to start here. And all you've really got to do is select one, preview it, go back, maybe pick another one, Smoke 3, find the one that you like, and once you're happy with it, go to this button here, which is allowing you to click this one, Export Effect to GameGuru MAX. Once you've clicked that, all you're going to do is go back into GameGuru MAX, select the users folder, and there you go, Smoke 3. So that's the one I've literally just exported from the particle editor. Select add selected particle, and we'll just ramp up the opacity. Opacity is how solid it is. If it was really less, it would be practically see-through. Be able to see it. Opacity of 100, very, very strong. Somewhere in the middle lets you see through a little bit, but you can see most. And of course the animation speed as well. And that didn't exist in GameGuru MAX up until I went into the particle editor, found it from the library, dragged it in, and there you go. So that's how you can get started very quickly with the particle editor. So I want to show you a few more things, because you're going to need this almost right away. The ability to move the game element that's representing the particle. So you can use the horizontal and the vertical, as you've seen, but you can also have scale. You can increase the size of the particle to suit whatever it is that you want. So those are really I would call the pure basics of getting the particle editor and starting to use it. But here's the thing. As I was working on bug fixes and adding additional functionalities and integrating and stuff, I also cast an eye on Discord. quite often. And one of the things, in fact, it was the main theme about particles, because the community got wind that was working on particles, because they were being marked off as fixed but needs confirmation, is there is some confusion, or there was some confusion before I sorted it, about this. Let me just show you one of the early particles, which we used to initially populate, I think it's fountain. Where are we? Here we go. Fountain directional. Now, we were very correct when we just took the particle as the particle editor exported it and let you use it as a game element. The problem is, you see how it's this emitter, the place where all the particles come from, it's off to the left. And we represented that in GameGuru MAX, but people didn't want that on Discord. They said, no, if we drop in a particle like that fountain, it should come from the widget. For example, all the smoke's coming from this particle object's game element, so why can't we have it come from the element within the game? And I thought, okay, that's absolutely a fair point. And so what we've taken a liberty in GameGuru MAX, it wipes out that initial local emitter offset. So the emitter is always where the game element is. So I'm sure that will please a lot of people who were worried about that on Discord. It isn't a true reflection of the final data setting on the particle editor export, but I think it's more useful 9 times out of 10. So to give you an example, if I just drop in a particle, stick it on the wall using a smart object system, go to particles, we'll add this one. This is one of the ones that previously didn't actually emit out of this. It was sort of little offset based on what the particle editor was designed, but now, as you can see, it's actually emitting straight out of that emitter. And to prove that, if I drop in another one, another thing that was mentioned in Discord is that rotation doesn't work. Well, actually it does for a majority of the, not all the particle effects. That goes down as a small little bug because there are over 400 particles. And if you do find that you've dragged in a particle into GameGuru MAX and you can't rotate it, or it's not rendering properly, or there's some visibility issues, please post them in the issues board and mark it as a particles. I'll be searching for particles, specifically particle bugs, for a couple of weeks just to iron out. We did a huge lot of tests, but 400 plus particles is quite a lot of work. And a lot of them are kind of the same kind of particles, just with different loops and different speeds, etc. So if you find a particle that's misbehaving, please let us know and we can sort that out quickly. And one of them was rotation, which was also fixed. If I drop that one into this and then rotate it 90 degrees, before it didn't really work. It was, I'll just drop that down a little bit. It didn't work because it wasn't coming from the game element. When you rotated it, you didn't really know where it was being emitted from and where it was going to. But now it's actually coming out of the game element. It makes a lot more sense, and I can say, if I like that and I just want to put one there and there, it's exactly what you would expect. It's pouring out like so. The directional nature of when you're rotating, it changes direction. In the particle editor, look out for other things like the force of gravity or initial velocity and inertias and things, because that can override. You might point an emitter in a particular direction, but if the particle emitter has strong settings to sort of go in a particular absolute direction, it will pull it in that direction. So you really want to sort of make sure that the particle that you create is suitable for things like this. So certainly check out the fountain, directional fountain, because that'll give you an idea of how to create these kinds of effects. It could be flames or water. Yeah, actually, if you make them blue, they would kind of look like water. And you can change all the images and the colours. Go check out the particle editor in detail if you like. And also, if you want some advanced videos on it to go into even more details, let me know about that too. What we will be doing is including a particle editor built-in tutorial, which walks through the process of adding a particle, creating one, dropping in very quickly, just a sort of a refresher course. That's mainly for people who aren't going to sit through nearly 100 minutes of broadcast 100. So that's where we are right now. There's a few more things that I want to do. And I must mention that these have just been dropped in very crudely and very quickly for the purpose of just quickly demonstrating where the buttons are, how to drag them and move them around and then change them. The reason I picked the Switch Escape is I spent a little bit more time on this level and I want to demonstrate some of the things that you can actually do now. There was a couple of bugs. Those all have been fixed, so the next time you bring up the Switch Escape in 2 days' time on Friday, the Switch Escape will behave itself in terms of particles. Now this trick is a little game element where this steam is super hot, and if the player tries to walk through it, it gets steamed to death and he runs out of health and starts again. And the trick is to switch this switch here, which switches this particle off. As you can see, that particle is set up to show at start. That's particle there. But these three, if you look at these, they're not showing at the start. That one's not showing at the start, and that's not showing at the start. What happens is, when I switch this button, it switches that steam off and switches these three steams on. It gives the impression that you're redirecting the steam from this one, which is dangerous to you, to these three. And because particles by themselves don't hurt the player, the real thing that kills the player is this zone. And I actually switch off this zone, which is a hurt the player's health action. That's the behaviour of it. And as I switch that, I also switch off this zone. So that shows you how the game logic works, but also how I use particles in order to represent that logic, so you get to understand from a game's player's perspective what you need to do in this particular level. And the Switch Escape has a couple of different areas where I demonstrate a few little game mechanics like this. So, as I said, check out on Friday. We've fixed any little particle bugs that you might have. If you find some more, please do let us know, because we're pretty much hot off the press with particle stuff. We're nearly there, but if we can just finish it and draw a line under it to say, yeah, particles are solid, then we can absolutely move ahead with the next set of features for GameGuru MAX. And on that, there was a couple of posts in the community about why isn't GameGuru MAX adding new features, what's going on? And I want to address that before we move further. If you look at the issues board, we have about 1,000 issues recorded. 250 of them are bugs, 750 of them are feature requests. Now, if you're using GameGuru MAX to make a game and you want to get on and create levels and share it with your friends and just get on and create the game that you want to make, you do not want a bug stopping you, slowing you down, stopping you in your tracks, or having to abandon your level and start something new. So at TGC, we feel it's very important we fix these bugs before we start on the 750 feature requests or thereabouts that have been posted onto the issues board. It's not that we're not doing new additional features, but we feel it's very important for GameGuru MAX that we squash all the bugs. I'm going to do them in chunks, so we'll pick, like we've done here, we've picked all of the particle issues that have been reported up to today, fixed them all, or nearly all, 98% of them. And then we're going to look at another big chunk of common issues, group them all together. It's much easier to fix a lot of bugs quickly if we actually work on a particular section, because we're familiar with the code, we can move through it, fix it all up, make sure it's done correctly, and there's no cross-contamination of fixes as we fix one thing and another thing breaks. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be fixing bugs. If we get to something like 50 bugs and 950 feature requests, then you can start to breathe a sigh of hope that new feature will start to emerge. We do have a roadmap as well on things that we do want to focus on. You already know that we've telegraphed it. We're going to bring in more elements for RPG style games and for puzzle style games. And those are already on our roadmap. Those are guaranteed new features that are going to be coming out in the future. But if you go through the issues board, you'll find there is a plethora of ideas, some great, some can take a long time to create, but please don't hold back. If you've got a great idea and it's not on the issues board, please post it. So that's the demo section. Hopefully you've asked a few questions, and Zach, who's been floating around trying to answer a few of them, is now collating all the questions that he cannot answer, and then he will post them to me. So without further ado, we'll move on to the second part of our broadcast 100. And welcome back again. More razzmatazz. And do let us know if you like our razzmatazz and if you want us to speed it up, slow it down, change it. We're always open to feedback, always open to feedback. So I'm going to look onto the off-screen screen that I have, which includes all of the questions that have been posed. I'm just going to pick the ones off Zach because those are questions that were asked right at the beginning, and so I think it's only fair that those get answered by me right away. And then once I run out of those, then it's a free-for-all. Then you can ask your questions. Please remember to put a question mark at the end, so as I scroll through the live chat, I can hit those questions quickly, answer them, and move on. So I can see there's quite a lot of orange. Those are the ones from Zach. I always forget, in fact, the last 97 broadcasts, I forgot that you can already see the live chat if you're chatting live. And so I was dragging the live chat in and obscuring this window. By doing it this new way, from broadcast 100 onwards, if there is something that I can demonstrate in the software, I've got the full screen to demonstrate it. And yet you can still see your chat on the right, and I can see it on my second screen. So the first question from Zach comes through as unanswered, which is, will there be a flying script or jetpack in the future? Of course there will. Absolutely in the future. In fact, anyone who remembers GameGuru Classic, there was a rather cool jetpack where you could collect it, strap it to your shoulders, press a button, and up you flew. Of course, in Classic, you actually ran out of terrain relatively quickly, whereas GameGuru MAX, you can literally fly through the terrain forever. It's not a high priority, as I said. We really want to get all of the mechanics for PG and puzzle. You could argue that jetpack flying is sort of a puzzle mechanic, so maybe someone can make a good case for that and we get it in a bit sooner. But we do have a roadmap on those big juicy features, but there isn't like a, we're absolutely going to do flying stuff next, because there's other things that we feel are more important and will let you have more flexibility when it comes to creating your games. Next question, will we be able to have custom terrain color palettes per level? Yeah, I think it was mentioned in previous broadcasts. Currently we've selected some high quality textures for you to paint your terrains and select your skies. But yeah, customized skyboxes, customized textures that you want to paint onto your terrain. That was always part of the plan. And during the early access phase of development, we were going to add those extra buttons. Much like if I show you this, if I select a particle, like so, and you see it says add new particle, that's kind of what I'm talking about. We give you these, and we give you these from the library. But we'll also give you another button where you get to import your own, and it gets added to your library, and you can then, in the future, select them at your leisure. So it was always our intention to give you full customizability. We just wanted to make sure that the quality was high for everything that we put out. So keep an eye out for that. That should be exciting. Next question. If we already own the particle editor, that's not the GG Max version, can we link it up to Max? Yeah, that was always our intention as well. When you have, if you've already got the App GameKit Studio version of the particle editor, that will be updated and you will find the export to GG Max button in there. You don't have to buy it again. We are talking about, is there even easier ways, like perhaps we gift you the GameGuru MAX version, so it's part of your Steam collection, so it's just a little bit easier to sort of get the updates without having to bounce across to AGK to get the particle editor. So let us know how you'd like it delivered, but sure, you're not going to be the loser by already having owned particle editor. You'll get all the functionality that I've just been talking about without you having to purchase particle editor all over again, so don't worry about that at all. I think this question leads on from that. I only purchased the other particle editor 2 months ago, never used it. Will it allow us to upgrade? Yeah, as I said, it's essentially the same tool. We just added some extra code to make the export from the particle editor to GameGuru MAX super easy. So that will just be in the version you've already got once you do the update. So it looks like we've a new questions chimed in from J Birdman. I'm sure Zach will continue to post some questions as he finds older ones. Will we be able to control data streaming as new locations are approached without using spawning with player in zone activated if used? I need to read that one again. Will we be able to control data streaming? Don't know what that is yet. As new locations are approached, without using spawn with player in zone, activate if used. Yeah, if I get you right, it means loading in new bits of level as you get closer to it. So think massive multiplayer worlds. You don't want to store all the objects in the level at once, but as you get closer to a city, it starts loading in all the objects and textures and everything for that village. There's no plans to do that. The reason is, when we finished the terrain generator and the procedural terrain system, we realised it was quite huge. We didn't need to stream in terrain details. We can have quite almost infinite procedural terrain without needing to do that. Not saying we're not doing it, it's just not on our roadmap. I think the terrains are already super massive, and I'd be looking for some good cases where you just want one level that just streams in your entire game without going to level 2, level 3, level 4. And if I just come out of here for a second, if I go back out here, you'll see our approach with GameGuru MAX is storyboards. So we actually want you to create level 1, level 2, level 3, bouncing between these scenes. It's efficient. You don't try and cram everything into one block of memory. And so we're kind of going to start here with this. But if the request is, can we just have one super massive level that streams everything in, that's not on our shorter term roadmap. So you might have to hold your breath a bit longer before you see something like that. Here's a question from Nightfall X. Are you happy where GameGuru MAX is heading at? Very happy. I've said it to my teammates. I've probably said it in the community. I think this is the best game maker I've ever been involved with. It's taken 10 years, right, playing modern games and using our own game makers to create games and realizing what we're missing, what's next, and you know, things like the storyboard, for example, and editing menus. These are critical things to customize your game, and GameGuru MAX delivers on that. And when you're in the game, being able to just select a behavior by looking at an icon and saying, oh, that's the behavior I want, I'll drop that in, and that's my spike trap. So when I walk through a corridor and a spike comes up, I have to code it. It's literally a behavior called trap. A spike trap. And it looks like a spike trap. You select it, give it to a marker or an object, boom, you've actually created it. I really like how we can get away with creating quite sophisticated game logic with never having to script. 98% of you never having to script, never having to create art. You just pick behaviors, you lay it out. Certainly can go out to stores and bring them in, but we've made that process a lot easier as well. So I'm super happy with what we've got right now. There is a way to go through the early access phase, and I think when we get to what we would call a version 1, it isn't just going to be a one-trick pony. You will be able to create first-person shooter games and combat games and adventures and stories and RPGs and walking simulators and interesting VR puzzle games, all of that cool stuff. So keep an eye out for what's happening in the future, because it's all happening at the moment. Right, my live chat just scrolled. I guess new questions are coming in, which is great because we got the time this time. This is another one from Zach. An earlier question was asked. Hi Lee, 2 quick questions on my lunch break. Can custom particles made with the tool be sold on the store? And how can artists contact TGC to make official packs for Max? Yeah, 2 related-ish sort of questions. If you make your own particle, it's a great question. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I am pretty sure. If you make the particle and you export it, you've created that, you own it. And you own it, and you can do what you want with it. You can give it away into the community. You can try and sell it. I don't think we've got any plans to sell like 1,000 particle effects. I think what we're hoping is we give you the editor, you create the particles as you need them for your game. There might not be a need to have a library with an additional 1,000 particles. It might take you longer to scroll through and find what you want than just go into the particle editor and make it yourself. So yeah, I think you don't quote me on this, and definitely get it in writing. But yeah, I don't see any strange objection to allowing you to create your own particle and then share it or sell it. I don't see any problem at all. As to contacting us for official DLC, I think a lot of you know now that, you know, we focus on the tech, on the engine stuff. A lot of the DLC that we've done in the past and the DLCs that we're doing now are actually third-party artists. It's not an in-house project. We certainly help it along and make it compatible and create product screenshots and videos and package it nicely to sell. But it's actually created by third-party artists, and we highly encourage that relationship. So if you've got something that you think is at or above the current visual standards of GameGuru MAX, please let us know. Send in your portfolios. If you've already started some asset work, send us those. If we can see that there's enough of it to justify either a game kit or a booster pack, then we can start talking. But our door is always open when it comes to taking assets from artists who, the game ready, they're ready to rock. We just need to do that last little 5% just to make sure that it slots nicely and easily into the GameGuru MAX game making experience, and then everyone's a winner. So please do let us know if you've got something that looks really cool. So going through, looking for the next, here's question mark. This is from No Name. When you are going to stop making demo games and build VR, multiplayer, a script system, everything that you promised 2 years ago, that's why 90% of people bought your system? Well, yeah, I've written them all. I'm just keeping them in a box, and I'll release them when I feel like it. Joke. It takes a long time to create game-making software. It really does. The reason we haven't released VR is it's not finished. We haven't released multiplayer because it's not finished. A scripting system, not entirely finished. Everything else, well, if that includes everything in the universe, definitely not finished. It's on our roadmap. We're doing it. I think we're doing it in the right order. We're working on things that are the most important, and then going down the list. Once those high priority items are out the way, then the next thing goes to the top of the list and start working on that. That's just the basic reality of development. And for the size of team that we have, 2 years is quite impressive in my book. If you look at the games industry, they're budgeting a room, well, probably a building full of people, costing $20 million over 3 years. And even when they get to that, there's still issues and bugs and etc. And so what happened to this feature and that feature? And half the time it's feature creep, isn't it? You say that you're going to do something 2 years ago. In 2 years, you've learned a lot about what you've been working on. You've thrown stuff away, you've added new things, you've changed something. It's very difficult to have an idea on paper and in 2 years' time say, well, that's exactly what I said, because maybe there was a better idea that came on. You don't rigorously stick to some ancient idea if a better idea comes along. Anyway, I digress. If you read back to the last 99 broadcasts, I'll usually do a little rant about that. It's the reality of development. And I think I started when I was 9 years old. I've probably been doing this for about 40 years, and you learn a few realities about an idea, and then you sit down and code it, and then it's rubbish, and you throw it away and you start it again, and then you improve it, and you put it out there, and everyone else thinks it's rubbish, so you throw it away, and then you do it a third time, and it's called iteration, and it's just the reality. But if there's something specific that you're waiting for, rather than just a big list of everything, then please put it in the issues board as a feature request. Maybe put a couple of exclamation marks, and then email me at lee@thegamecreators.com to say, look, this is definitely something that needs to go in, and then I'll show you a list of other things that I think are more important, and then we'll have that conversation. So sorry you had to wait 2 years for things that actually aren't in the software yet. But, we didn't sit on our hands for those 2 years. We actually created quite a lot of software to get to this point. Question mark. I can't answer the question mark. It would have to have some text with it. Okay, next question is from Donald. Why is there no water in a level with no textures? That's a bit of a floaty question. Why is there no water in a level with no textures? Oh, I think I know what you mean. Yes, you're talking about, we're going to create like a new level like that. Think. This is my particle test I was talking about before, and we can certainly dig out a big hole in the ground, but you'd think when you go to water, why can't I get the water component and float it up? Because this was meant to be, this sort of empty mode was meant to be for like interior levels. You create different rooms and corridors and run around, or you don't really want terrain and water, you want to switch all it off so you got a nice fast experience. I don't you know, sure, I do see like there's a sandbox reason for wanting to just do a quick test with some water in. The basic reason is we switched it off, so this is nice and fast for more of an interior game experience. You have the really strong feeling that we do want water even in this, and when you maybe a ticket on and off, and when it's on, it slows down the performance a little bit. When it's off, it's exactly what we have right now. Then please let me know. But it's just one of those little things. So just get out of this, back into the hub, which is a bit prettier than a big grey grid of nothing. Questions. Who's got the questions? Okay, this is from J Birdman. People still use VR. It stagnated in the 80s. Absolutely, VR has finally achieved the status of what we would call a consumer item. All the previous 4 attempts at VR, they were very, very nichey, very expensive, and not a very great experience. It was only in, say, the last 10 years where the technology caught up with the vision of VR, pardon the pun. So now we're actually be able to get a device, you put it on your headset, you're at 120 FPS, you get a nice smooth experience and you don't get nauseous. And the quality is so good that you don't have these weird blocky text and all the other artifacts that had in previous generations of VR. And you only have to look at the sales numbers from, say, the Oculus Quest, where they're into the millions now. You can't deny it's a consumer item. Now, you could argue that I have absolutely no interest in VR. Don't do it, TDC, and do all the things that I want. You see, the thing is, with a situation like that, the person sitting next to you will say the exact opposite. I want multiplayer, and I want VR, and I don't want all the other stuff. Or there'll be a third person who says, I only want VR, and I don't want you to work on anything else. So do we reconcile that as a developer? We can't instantly grow 18 pairs of hands and do them all at the same time to please everyone at the same time. We, as a developer, have to make choices. And unfortunately, those choices will make some people very happy and some people not very happy. And so it's a dilemma that we face all the time. And there's not really much we can do about it, except keep you informed, let you know what we're doing, let you know what we're planning for the near future, and continue to get feedback on the stuff that we do add, so we don't just race off and do 10 new things before we make sure that thing that's already in does what it needs to do. And it's not half-baked, and there's no holes in it, and it's not buggy, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I think it's important that we add something and make sure it's right before we start adding 5 more features quickly and without thought as to how the product is evolving. Okay, next question. We're going to have to scroll down because I can't see any question mark. Oh, thank you, CJ. It's CJ, a big blue bar and a pound. Now, I didn't mention this, but last week I think we switched on something called Super Chats, Super Stickers, and Super something else. And basically, it's something YouTube have activated in the last couple of years, which allows creators to fund themselves. Now, TDC, we primarily fund ourselves through selling game-making products. And we use all of that money in order to develop and continue to develop and maintain all the products in our lineup. And I just want to say that any donations that come through these Super Chat or Super Stickers goes into that same pot. Every single pound, penny, everything goes straight back to the development effort to make sure the products are even stronger. Just want to let you know, because I read it somewhere, that you kind of want to know where your sponsorship and your support goes, and you don't want any ambiguity. It goes straight back into development. Okay, looking for the next question. J Birdman, yes, Lee, exactly. And great, someone agrees with me. Yeah, I'm going to have to scroll a bit. My eyesight is missing the... Here we go. This is a question from NGI. I got a question. Is there a horror game kit in the works? Should I say anything? You know, I have a soft spot for horror game. You know, the idea of creaking doors, holding up candles, looking for matches because your candle's running low. It's creepy noises and you can't figure out where it is. No weapon. Yes, I would like to see a horror game kit. There isn't one. If an artist came up to me tomorrow and says, I've just created a whole spooky mansion and there's lots of assets and characters and weapons and objects and sounds and music, I'll absolutely turn that into a game kit and release it to everyone. But no one's actually approached us yet with the Haunted Mansion. If you have something like that, please let us know. And I'm sure those projects will evolve over time. And absolutely, if it's up to me, I'd like to see that Haunted Mansion game kit. But nothing is in the works at the moment. There are other things, a bit too early to talk about them, but there are other game kits in the works, so hold your breath on that one. Oh, it's scrolled, so I need to find it where I am. Yeah, find myself again. Okay, looking for a question mark. The next one is from CJ. Is there a way for when you kill a baddie, it spawns a key? Or a Titanic sim, smiley. Yeah, there should be. If you get a character and then you use the visual editor and then link that to a key that's not set to spawn, that should do it. And that's kind of what I always intended the visual editing system to do. If it doesn't do that, CJ, it's a bug. Let me know, I fix it. It will be in the next build. So just to show you what CJ is talking about, let's say we have a character. Let's get this flamboyant looking guy. He starts off in the game and maybe he's got a weapon, he runs up to me and somehow I get him killed and he falls on the floor and dies. But what if also we wanted him to drop a key? So we have a key, big key, say, go into this, scale it up, nice big key. And what you can do, it's two things. This is what I would do, is show at start of level, no. So this actually won't show up at the start. So all you see is the character. And then you use this, which is the visual logic system, and you link the character to the key. Now, my impression, you know, this is how I interpret what that looks like from a visual logic system. The character is already active. He's going to run around and do all the things that he needs to do. When the character dies, that's like it's the game status changed. Something in the game has changed, and that triggers off this connection. And obviously there's only one thing the key can do. It's currently hidden, it's not spawned. The only thing the key can really do is show up in the game. So when this character dies, the key appears. Now I am aware you might actually have two events that you want this character. Let's say the character doesn't see you. So if I just switch that off for a second and its back is turned, maybe the action is when the character sees you, it triggers the key and the key appears. So actually there's potentially two events that this character can trigger for that key to appear. So if it turns out that that isn't the case and we don't need it, then as soon as the character is killed, the key appears. If there's two events, I'll add a little bit of extra code so you get to choose which event will actually spawn the appearance of the key. Just to go a little bit further, we do have the time is, what if this character's running around everywhere? What if he's here, then he's there, then he's in the next room? Maybe you want the key to be dropped wherever the character drops. We already have something similar. If we go into character settings, look at this. We've got weapons, and the character can hold onto a weapon. I'll give him the Aztec spear. But what if underneath weapons there was another one like just object? So when the character dies, you see, player can take weapon. What if there was another category, so if it was just a regular object, so when the character dies, you can actually pick from any of the objects that are currently in the local thing, and then a tick box is whether it gets dropped or not. That actually might be cleverer and gives you more opportunities, and it also means that the key would actually be wherever the character drops. So this is just me thinking out loud. I'm not promising any features. Don't quote me in another 100 broadcasters that, haha, I got video evidence. I'm just thinking out loud to say, which of these two should we opt for? Call it a bug, so the visual will just make it a thing, or some extra properties inside general, so you can actually expand the capabilities of what characters can and can't do. So hopefully all that makes sense, and it gives you a little bit of insight into what's going on in Lee's brain from minute to minute. Okay, I'm still on the page. I can still see questions, which is good. This is the question: when are you going to make a new structure editor? We have something bubbling in the background. You can actually use the new the structure editor right now, but it's a bit hidden. So go into settings, developer, select show additional developer settings and legacy structure editor. You select that, you can continue to create floors, walls, ceilings, staircases, multiple levels. Export it out. You can obviously texture it the way you want to export it. Drops in as an object, and all the collision works, and it's efficient. You can run around and all the rest of it. It's not the most user friendly, which is why we've buried it inside the developer settings. But we are looking at another tool which can completely supersede the structure editor and hopefully do everything it can do and a bit more. And at that point, we'll probably get rid of the legacy structure editor and have this new solution in the wings. But it's still early days to talk about it. I want to get a bit further along before I can reveal a few little clues and get your appetites wet for what might be coming in the future. But for now, you can use the legacy structure editor. It works. If it doesn't, please post an issue in the issues board and I'll be able to sort it out for you. You're looking at me. Okay, another question, please. Is that a question? No, that's just a big sentence. Another one from Jay Birdman. Yeah, I'm reading. It's going to. Question 2 is a good start. Okay, I'll read it as if it was a question. Yeah, I'm reading and looking at the modern offerings. I'm going to head first here. Is the Oculus Quest 2 a good start? It's only $300. Yeah, the Quest 2 is great value. I'm not sponsored by Oculus, but it is $300 for a really high resolution, super fast, inside out tracking, good controllers. I'm sure they're not making any money on selling the Oculus Quest. They're seeding the market for what's going to come in the future. Even I've seen headsets that aren't as good as the Quest 2 coming in at twice that price. Great thing about the Oculus Quest 2 is you can use it 2 ways. It's standalone, so you don't need to connect it up, just charge it up and run around your house, bang into walls. But it has something called the Oculus Link. You can connect it up with a cable, or if you've got really good Wi-Fi, you can connect it up wirelessly. And it acts as if it's a desktop VR solution. So, for example, eventually when GameGuru MAX has VR, and you click the VR button, it doesn't run some weird Android cut-down standalone thing. It literally streams that VR experience from your super nice graphics card straight to the Oculus Quest via the Oculus Link, and you get that experience. Your alternatives, it goes up sharply in price. I think the Valve Index, which I think is one of the best right now, is well over $1,000. So it's $300, $1,000. I have both, but I'm a developer and I need everything. But I'd say start off at the $300. If VR is not for you, you only lost $300. In fact, this is great, and I want the ultimate experience by Aural Sound and ultra controllers and super slick everything. And future-proofed, yeah, there are much more expensive hardwares out there if you really want to get into VR. But I would say start at the lower end and see if you like it first. Okay, another question for Lee is, this is from 3Com. Any chance to attach particles to the player and NPCs? As we are working on particles, you mean? Well, you can already do that. I mean, maybe not characters and NPCs in the sense that I can demonstrate it right now, but the nearest thing I can show you, which might give you an idea of what you can do, it's using the Smart Object System. So I want to show you this one. Candle lit. Dink. What you're looking at here is a smart object. We added it for the launch of the early access version. I think it's rather clever. I don't think a lot of people have been using it. You can actually make these smart objects out of groups. So you can group lots of things together, lights, particles, objects, have their own behaviours, collect them all together and just boom, make a group, save it as a smart object, then you can drag it in through your library as a smart object. This actually comprises of, as you can see here, the actual candlestick itself, a light which has a little flickery behaviour, and also this, which is a flame candle. And in addition to that, you can actually have a particle. So you can actually attach a particle to an entity, save it out as a group, call it a smart object, drag it back in, and in theory, you'll have your particle trailing the character wherever the character may go. I'm thinking like a zombie, which has this pestilent cloud of poisonous particles following it and trailing because it's a proper emitter system. Not actually tried that. So try that out. Make an object, smart object, using a zombie and a trailing poison particle system. If it doesn't work, it's a bug. And then you can post it onto the issues board. But that's definitely something we always intended with the smart object system. And of course, in the future, if we do have characters that we ship, say with a game kit or a booster pack, and it needs particles for, like, as I said, poison clouds or dripping saliva or flames or smoke or whatever it happens to be, then we'll start including those sort of out-of-the-box experiences so you can kind of see where we're at. But yeah, there might be one or two bugs in between that idea and what we have today, or at least what you're going to get on Friday. But it is particle related, completely agree with that, so do post it as an issue. Write particle in the title, just so it attracts my attention in the next 2 weeks. Okay, looking for another question, and we're going to go down the live chat a little bit further. This is from Nightfall X. After the bugs are done, that'll never happen, but yeah, when the bugs are really low, would there be GameGuru Classic promise features? Question mark, question mark, question mark. We are working on GameGuru Classic, actually. Watch this space up to the end of June. I'll have a lot more information to talk about in terms of GameGuru Classic. And I just want to get my stall set up first and go through all the latest source code. One of the things I can reveal is that yes, you are going to be seeing some new features in GameGuru Classic. As this is a broadcast that mainly talks about GameGuru MAX, I'll keep that one short and sweet. And please don't ask me for a separate broadcast on GameGuru Classic. Maybe I can find some of the community who wants to do it. We'll have a broadcast competition. Who can do the longest broadcast between GameGuru Classic and GameGuru MAX? But yeah, more on that by the end of June, and then we'll continue that dialogue going. But I'd like to know what specific features that you're talking about. Okay, so looking for some information from CJ. CD Projekt, number of employees 1,111. That was in 2019, and the operating income $219 million in 2021. Just goes to show how big the games industry is right now. Our team isn't quite as large. Last count, I don't think we had 1,000 people working on our software. We're a little bit smaller than that. Looking for another question, and it's another one from Nightfall. And would the occlusion culling? GameGuru Classic, actually, remember, we're releasing the June fixes this month. There's an update going out for GameGuru Classic, and there has been an optimization improvement in respect to object culling. So maybe that actually answers your question, so look out for that if you're a GameGuru Classic user. Okay, question. Nomad Soul says, Max is one of the best game engines out there. Well done, Lee, TVC and team. I will pass that along, and thank you very much. I think we're on the way to it. I think when we get to version 1, we'll have something that will do a nice job for someone who's got a game idea and just wants to dump it out from their head onto a computer and share it with their friends, or even sell it without having to spend 3 years learning how to create a graphics engine, a games engine, game logic, and everything in between. And that's not including all the art you're going to need to supply your game. So thank you very much for that. Okay. Jay Birdman, no question, but do you get nauseous in VR? I do not. Never have. I feel like it's a roller coaster ride when you first go in. I even added controls where you can go into the VR and just run really fast and then turn really fast. That should send most people hurling into a bucket. Doesn't affect me at all. But I am aware that there is a percentage of the population who do not like that kind of motion. The body's still, but the eye and the brain says you're moving. Those two signals fight, and you can get quite nauseous. A better way when you move through VR games is what's called teleport. So you never slide through. You basically just disappear from one location and appear at another with a bit of fading and a bit of visuals. And it kind of calms the brain down, and you've got time to breathe as you move from one to the other. Just moving your head around is fine. Absolutely fine. And moving the controls and seeing where your hands are, also fine. It's when you got that sense of motion without your body actually moving. That's where the brain splits into two perspectives, and it can be quite ill sometimes. But it's a small percentage. I think it's something like 10%. But I haven't checked up on the latest stats. I think as we get more sophisticated as consumers of VR and the hardware gets better, I think we'll see that factor reduce more and more. And maybe a little health warning on every VR headset. Okay, looking for a question mark. We got a lot of talking, which is great. Means I don't have to talk as much. Okay, we got a question. This is from Nikki Reed. Why does jail door not move when testing lock and key? The hitbox moves, but the mesh picture doesn't. I walk right through it. Okay, you might not be using the latest version. I'm just going to do a little test. just to show you what I think of as the jail door. So I'm just going to delete that. Yes, I'm completely ruining the switch escape level, but I think it's fine. So jail, there you go. So we've got a jail cell door, like so. You can rotate it, so we'll put one here, and we'll put one here, obviously. Bit of a gap, not much of a jail cell, we can just run straight through it. So let me just read your question again in respect to this. Jail do not move when testing lock and key. So I'm going to see if I can just, let's get rid of this guy because he'll actually try and hurt me. And just drop in start marker, run the game. I think by default all the doors you can open like so. Let's just focus on one, just to make things a little bit simpler, because obviously you can just run straight through. If you select on any of the doors that come with the product out of the box, it already has a behaviour called door rotate. Let's have a quick look. Door, add selected. So this is the door. You can start it off as unlocked. You can have one where you just can't close it. You can change all the text of the doors as well. So if we actually untick that, so this door is no longer, and then what you can do, I just understand your question correctly, then you can have a key, you drop the key in, that door is now locked, and then all you've got to do, we'll ignore the massive key, what you can do is take that key and connect it to any part of the door, and what that basically means is, if that door is locked, go and collect that key somewhere on your level, the next time you run to the door knows you've got the key, and then it'll let you unlock the door and then open it. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to use the built-in doors and keys in GameGuru MAX. If not, maybe you've got time to do a follow-up question. I think we're pretty switched on in terms of the lag on YouTube between what I say and the questions I'm reading. So maybe you can do a follow-up question. This is from I Carry Warrior. Is GGM developed from the ground, or is it built on top of another engine? It's a bit of a hybrid. We actually threw away our old graphics engine and we've used the Wicked engine because it was a lot further along. It had better PBR, a lot of cool effects, written by a AAA games engine developer, and it has abstraction support for future technologies such as DX12 and Vulkan. So it was a great graphics engine to sit on top of, and it meant we can just focus on the games engine. There's a difference between games engine and graphics engine. Graphics engine just renders stuff to the screen. A games engine provides everything else: the sound effects, the input controls, the logic, the editors, all of the other stuff that you would, if you didn't have that, you'd have to code. You'd have to create your own set of tools. You'd have to be a prosumer and buy a lot of stuff to pull all together to make a game. The game maker simplifies that process and gives it you all on a plate, essentially. So that's the difference between the two. But we have pulled a lot of experience, a lot of code, and a lot of bits and bobs just from the last 20, 30 years of making game makers and game creation tools and technologies. So it's not completely from scratch, but yes. We started off with the idea of let's just make a few little tweaks, but we ended up scrapping, and it is essentially from scratch. As you see, there's not much resemblance between this and any other game maker that we've done so far. So let's look for the next question. I think it's underneath. No, there's quite a lot of commentary, which is great. And the next real question with a question mark is from another one from Donald. Unreal and Unity uses Quixel Megascans models. Have you thought of maybe being able to use these models with Max? Yeah, I've imported some of the library, some of the free stuff from Megascans. Super high poly. I mean, it's fine. It does import okay, and the textures are great, and it looks good. It's just when you're doing game levels, an object that's 500,000 polygons, and you want 1,000 of those objects in your level isn't really going to cut it. What modern games developers do, they'll start with a Megascan, which might have 1,000,000 polygons, and then they use their art packages to reduce it down to something like a couple of thousand polys, and then the 1,000,000 polygon version generates all the normal maps. So you still have all that lovely detail, but when you're rendering it through the GPU, it's only a few thousand polygons and you get away with it. And then on top of that, you have LOD systems, so as the tree gets further away, or whatever the rock happens to be, then you use less and less polygons. But the Megascans model is just the starting point. Now, it's been a couple of years actually since I looked at their offerings. If they actually have an export where it already reduces the polygon counts, generates the normals, generates the LODs, exports it all as a single model, let me know. because that's perfect. That means I can take that through our model importer, do a few little jiggery pokeries, and you can drop in a model that looks absolutely awesome, and it will also work in a game engine setting. That is to say, it doesn't slow down your FPS when you use a handful of them. So if you already know that tool has those new abilities, I can see it being inevitable eventually. Everyone's going to want these low polygon but high quality looking things. And it may already exist, so if it does, please let me know. I actually don't know that at the moment. Okay, next question mark. And a lot of questions there. Oh, here we go. This is from Old Gamer. Are there any plans to include any type of cinematics editor allow us to create our cutscenes and in-game videos? No plans to do a cutscene editor right now. I know there is a third-party effort going on. If you want an idea of maybe where to look for what exists right now, it's called CineGuru. It's available for GameGuru Classic. It's really great. There's a lot of things that you might want for your cutscenes. And I do know there's a thought, I'm not saying it's happening, but there is a thought or two that maybe in the future it could come to Max, when Max behaves itself and fixes all its bugs. So that's another reason we'll fix all the bugs, because once all the bugs are fixed, it's more likely that something like a CineGuru could make its way to Max. And it also means that the core team, the in-house team, can then work on some other thing. And then the community contributes something like a cutscene editor. So we're not going to do it right now. If it already appears from the community before we get a chance to start it, that's probably how we're going to deliver that set of features. But certainly it's a no-no. It's certainly out there. We just have to figure out how long and when that might happen. And then game videos is just a version of cutscene. You don't really want to cram your game lots of video footage. It just swells up the disk space and how much downloading time for our individual game. Where the cutscene, real-time rendering, where it's basically moving the camera, moving characters, playing sounds, switching things on and off, much more efficient. You can have hours of cutscenes without actually hitting a lot of memory or disk space or storage. And so that's definitely the way I would like to see a cutscene system evolve for GameGuru MAX. Here's a question from Retro Game Block. Are we going to get particle control in script particle maker stuff? Last time I tried, you couldn't move them around. The history of particles in GameGuru is quite a long one. We've always had a kind of particle generator system. The one we're using now is directly from the particle editor from App Game Kit Studio. It was the most thorough and complete of the volumetric particle systems, and it could just be dropped into Max. Obviously not that easy. We had to rewrite all the shaders and all the rest of it. But what we ended up with, quite a powerful set of particle functions that we can apply to these particles. They're simply not exposed in the UI, and they're not exposed in the lower command set. If you do see particle commands in the lower command set, it's for the previous particle system. It's not for this new one. But now I've actually been working on the particle system, there is actually 20, 30, 40 functions. That will be great as lower commands, and it will give you total control of what you see. Not just the pretty icon that you drag in and attach to a game element, and all you can do is move it and scale it. You can control all the other things, like the lifetime of an individual particle, the offsets, the colors, the alphas, the modes, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the functionality exists in the engine. It only requires us to expose the lower commands. When is that going to happen? Probably not right away. I want to make sure that the particle engine is solid and it does everything it needs to do, and it lets you get on with the functionality that you see right in front of you. I think what's going to happen is, as scripters, you come and say, well, I want to make this behavior, but I need these 10 particle commands. It's probably going to come in that way. And so you'll probably learn about it as an update. And not only just an update, but probably a couple of behaviors that included in the build. So not only can you know there's lower commands out there, but there's actually behavior that exposes those commands and let you tweak and fiddle. I mean, if I just drop in just to show you what you've got now in the particles, like so, you notice that there isn't a behavior for particles. It literally just it does what the particle editor said it do. But if you think about something like a character, look, it has a behavior icon, it has a description, it has lots of parameters that you can actually change about this character. I mean, that's just melee attack. If I went to character attack, Lots of things you can change. Wouldn't it be great if the particle game element had a similar panel for behavior, where you could have just standard particle emit, but then different kinds of behaviors which expose a few more parameters that let you have that control. Doesn't bamboozle the beginner, but there is another set of particle behaviors that let you get into the nitty-gritty, again, without having to learn these low commands that don't yet exist. So I think that's how it's going to sneak into GameGuru MAX through the efforts of someone who's writing behavior scripts. Okay, I'm going to check the clock. I know I said I'll be talking until the cows come on. We're doing quite well. We're over an hour in. I think I started at 3 minutes into the hour, so we've been talking together for 65 minutes. That leaves 35 minutes till we hit the 100-minute mark. I'm getting quite hot now. I have to switch my aircon off in order that you can hear me loud and clear. But after 65 minutes of a couple of computers all generating lovely heat and the ambient temperature of the world outside, yeah, it's getting pretty sweaty in here. But I'm happy to persevere. If there's real questions, I'm quite happy to provide real answers. So let's get down to the next question, I think. Okay, I don't want to skip a question. Let me just go back up a little bit. Yeah, all right. So I think Retro Game Block, did I answer yours? Are we going to get particle control in scripted for... Yeah, I answered that, didn't I? Next question is from Tom. When VR is released... A lot of questions on VR. I guess you're excited to see VR. It's nice to hear. When VR is released, will it also have support for the index controller's full finger movement? Also, would we be able to add support for haptic vest support? I would say no and no for version 1. There's already quite a lot of work we're going to have to do to create what I call a great VR experience. And a lot of headsets and controllers are really quite simple. And there are a lot of them. So what we're going to do is called the common denominator. We pick controls that all the controllers have. Obviously head tracking, it goes without saying for the headset. But yeah, we go through all the controllers, we find out all the common ones. So every controller has a thumbstick, every controller has a trigger, every controller has a side button. Every controller has an A and B button. And those are the only ones we'll support for version 1. Why? Why are we being so stingy? It's because when we implement it, you'll be able to use and play your game in VR on all of the headsets that are OpenXR compatible. We're not going to do something that says, oh, well, you can only do that on that piece of hardware because it's not fair to the person who has a different piece of hardware. But what I will say is once that's done, tested, working, VR is great, VR is fast, then we'll look at all of the bolt-ons, the add-ons. If there's a lot of people who have the Valve Index and want finger tracking, and at the same time we can support that in the art, so you hold your hand up in the game and you can wiggle your fingers and see your fingers, that requires art. That would add some inverse kinematics potentially. So all that needs to be coded as well. It's not just a case of adding some extra support for the controller. So does that get represented in the game, and is it a useful thing to add over and above some game logic, stuff like that. So that's my current thinking. Get the base functionality so it supports every via OpenXR headset within the minimum spec that we're going to support. And then yes, all the extra toys, and I have a few of them myself. The tantalizing question is, when do those V2 things go in? And I think that will be dictated by how many people in the community want it. If only one person wants this extra shiny toy, but 20 people want the same amount of time working on something that everyone's going to benefit from, I'm afraid that's probably where that time is going to be spent. Unless we find someone in the community who wants to pitch in on the repository side, who is really into VR and wants to expand it in their own time, that's fine. Yeah, please apply at lee@thegamecreators.com. Okay, looking for a new question, and I think I can find it nearly at the top of the live chat. Wow, we're still getting questions, which is great. This is from Marcos. Please, add texture asphalt terrain. See previous answer. We will not be adding any more terrain textures. What we'll be doing is adding the customize button. Add your own texture here. All you get to do then is go out and find a PBR texture of asphalt that is nice and big and seamless. Select it. Then GameGuru MAX kicks in, imports it, puts it in the right place, And then next time you paint your terrain, you've got lovely asphalt to paint it down with. That is our next step in terms of terrain textures, which I think is more future-proof than us constantly providing textures ad infinitum, because we'll never get it all right. There's always going to be a texture that you want that we haven't thought of. Here's a question from Monkey Frog Studios. Are there plans to provide control for things like animated textures, animated emissive materials for things like blinking control panels? Yeah, I've read that, I think, in the issues board feature request recently. Can we play a video on a flat surface and stick that flat surface on a wall? I think they all fall into those categories of it's all very nice having PBR and all the rest of it, but just like the particles, you want your scene to move. You want it to be dynamic and change. Like, imagine walking down a street scene and seeing a neon sign that's actually using the emissive quality of the texture, and then it glows as it flickers on and off. These are those little touches that just elevate your level from something rather static to something extremely dynamic and enjoyable to walk through. Not a hugely difficult task, but again, it's about how many people need that over needing something else. It's on my own private roadmap, because as I said, it's not a huge amount of work, but I would probably do it when there's a big bunch of bugs or feature requests in and around that. The idea of taking a texture and doing things to it, not just having a static texture, but a texture that can actually animate or change or shift or scroll or resize. And that same technology can then be applied to the normal map and the diffuse and the albedo and then the emissive, even the surface texture per channel. So grouping all them together and doing it at once, it's just an efficient way of coding those features in. But as I said, bugs first, features second. I think that's the correct way of doing it. Okay, looking for a question mark. Maybe, oh, we should be all right. Yeah, we're okay. I'm not going to miss one. This is from Lucas. Late again! Exclamation mark. Oh, the pain. Can you give a quick rundown of the AI builder for us dummy rookies? The AI builder. We do have the time, don't we? Let me give you a 5-minute journey of it. I'm not going to use this level. Let's use another one. Shall we use... Yeah, why not? This is not a huge level, which means it won't take too much time to load and run and show you all the cool things. And I don't think I'm going to get attacked right away, which is always good in the demonstration. Okay, there is some sound effects actually, some music in this. If it's too loud, I'm just going to double check my audio levels. Or maybe just... That's not too bad, you can hear me. Great. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Behind that door there's a warrior ready to do battle. And in here there's a prisoner, and I press the E to open the door and she'll run off. But let me show you what's going on in the background. Probably this is what you mean when you mean AI. Right at the bottom, out of the way, AI management. This first one just shows you the nav mesh. And all these little green lines is showing the sort of the awareness and the raycast checks and all the clever stuff that AI needs to do. You can ignore that. Maybe look at the number. 687 is the ID of that particular character. But look at this when I click Edit Behaviors. Now I am going to replace this. It's good for me, but I think it needs to be better for all of you guys and gals. This is actually the behavior editor, and it shows you all of the current logic that's running in this level. So just to give you a quick idea, there's an object somewhere that's health, and when you collect it, it gives you health, and it's based on proximity. So it's a very simple piece of logic, as you can see. In fact, it's built into the entity. It doesn't even need any logic. But if I show you, remember that peasant, that prisoner, I should say. I forgot. 687. So 687. There you go. So this script, this behavior, is hostage runs away, and I'll just make it a little bit wider. The behavior editor is split into what I call states. So you've got the initial state, which is where it starts. Then you've got an idle state. If I just scroll down quickly, you've got walking away state when the character's walking away. Damage state, if the character ever gets damaged, it will run that state. Prisoner, that's the state the character's in right now because it's capital. Prisoner state. As you can see, this is really cool. This is where I'm going to take this and make it even more user-friendly, so anyone can create their own behavior logic. It's just a work in progress in the sense that for programmers and scripters and logic people's eyes only. But what I like about it, it's an early indicator. You can see which commands are being executed. It can do all of this, but has it gone through all the states and figure out, oh, no, not that, not that, not that, and think, oh, I'm a prisoner. And look what it's doing. It's looping this animation. It's setting its path rotation to 0. It's looking at the target, so if you get near enough, the character will sort of glance at you. If the target is within 75, then it's going to run this activity. If it's larger than 75, it runs this activity. What I might be able to do, watch what happens as I get so close to this character. This is the logic, it's going round and round. You see that line? It's going all the way back to the top. It's looping this, looping these 5 actions over and over and over and over again. Watch what happens when I get too close. That is to say, target, me, is within 75 units, then it won't be false anymore, it'll be true. And watch how that yellow then bounces down this other trouser leg into all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is open the door. Watch what happens. Dink. See? And that's effectively what you've got. It shows you exactly what the character is thinking right now. Obviously it's run through a lot of other actions that I've determined, but now it's no longer a prisoner. It's actually gone back up to the walking away state. It's still running. Now it's stopped running, so I guess it's gone to idle, and now it's in an idle state, animating a loop, animation idle, still look at the target, and the character, I think, yeah, all the way over there. And anyone who cares to know, if I just close this, go to camera controls, field of view. I don't know whether you knew that or not, but that's pretty cool to have a little zoom in, find out what's going on. And she's now in the idle state. And so that is usable. You can actually get a script, you can start messing with adding conditions and actions and checking out all the sound effects and animation and conditions. I think there's something like 95 conditions and about 60 actions. But the reason I'm not touched on it, as I think we can all agree, it's a little bit programmer art. There's a lot of scrolling. I found as I was developing all the different behaviours, quite a lot of scrolling going on. The idea that you get this drop down just to and find the ID of the character before you can I just click the character, and this is fine. I started off with the idea that it should be like a flowchart, and it very much is. But look, it can get actually quite. I'm not sure. Yeah, look at this one. It's actually quite wide. Actually, on the larger ones. In fact, I can show you a larger one. If we go to there's a character who's quite evil. Not weapon. Birds aren't evil. But there is a character. Yeah, melee attack. Look at this. Look at this. It's so big it actually goes off the screen, this flowchart. And so it's not necessarily the most ideal layout. You can use it fully functional. I use it all the time to create logic, and it is better than scripting. It's quicker than scripting. It's impossible to create a syntax error with this. Everything you do will work. It might not do the logic you want in the game, but it won't crash. It won't not compile and run. Everything in here is designed. So if you do this particular sequence, it will do that particular sequence, whether you wanted it to do that or not, because you actually put it down one after the other. And so what I want to do, which is why I said this will come a little bit later in future broadcasts and built-in tutorials, is more like this. Now this, look at this. You've got this lovely idea of you've got a box, that connects to that, that connects to that, these all connect to this. Anyone familiar with something like Unreal Blueprints? Will already know kind of where I'm going. I think they call them node trees or node layouts, etc. I want to be exactly like this. I think this is a bit too coarse. You'd want a bit more granularity and a few more icons and symbols. But the idea that you can just scroll around quite a large canvas, maybe group them as tabs at the top so you can very quickly bounce between different states instead of having to scroll all the way up and down, but still retain this idea that a highlight will actually highlight wherever the action or condition is, and what the characters or the object or the piece of logic is thinking right now. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an insight into that, because it's a great question, and you do deserve to be able to create all the logic you want for your games. It's just right now the primary method isn't that, which again is quite highbrow. It would definitely go into the advanced section. Right now your recourse for creating game logic is this, the behavior library. And this is where you can very quickly just look at lots of lovely pictures, click one, have a bit of a read of what it does, get some properties. You can control a few little sliders and some values, say yes or no to certain things. Do you start off injured or not injured? Test game, and the character does that. That's great for most users when you first start out making a game. The thing I showed you before, the behavior editor, that's when you want to get into some basic logic stringing, connecting A, B, C, D together and run those in order. So keep an eye out for that in the future. But thank you very much for the question, because it allowed me to go into a little bit more detail. We've not been able to do that in previous broadcasts to that degree. So I've talked quite a while, which means my live chat scrolled on and I might not have got the last question on the screen. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not going to miss a question. No, I'm back where I should have been, so that's great. Where are the post-live questions being answered? I answer them verbally. So if you've got a speaker, you'll be able to hear the sultry tones as I read your questions and I provide the answers verbally in our live broadcast. Okay. Oh, the pain, oh, the pain. I think I caught up to where I was last time. This is from Tatman. Is Max capable of flowing like downhill? Yeah, you can create a barrel and then put it at the top of a hill and it'll roll down the hill. You can create a sphere, put that at the top of the hill or a boulder, and that'll roll down the hill. So that's flowing downhill. If you mean things like, a stream, where the water is streaming down the hill, then no. We have a water plane at the moment, a single water plane body that cuts through the entire level. But in the future we are planning water bodies, and then a little bit further on from that, figuring something out which you could have downhill and uphill streams. But that's a little further down the road, I think. Let's just get some of the more basic things in place first. Okay, looking for a question. Now I'm sure some people will be leaving the chat right now. When you tuned in, you only expected half an hour, and now we're into, what should we say, the 81st minute? Don't worry, you can always come back on YouTube later and watch the second half. But I did promise to get through all the questions, and there's plenty still to answer. When I get to the end, I'll be quite happy to stop, because my mouth's getting a bit dry now. Okay, well, no, mouth's fine. It's this room, it's done hot. Okay, next question. Please give us an in-depth tutorial for the importer, especially textures. No question mark, but yeah, I suppose that's a feature request. Please put it in the issues board. That's the greatest, bestest place to put feature requests. And I do agree, I think we do need a good one for the model importer, just to show you the do's of the don'ts. The models to look out for, the models to avoid. How to get models in as characters, how to get them in as static objects, how to get them in as things that animate and move. I do also think there's more work to do on the model importer, and that will be revealed as we encounter more objects out there in the wild that we want to bring into GameGuru MAX. But it's certainly serviceable right now to get most of the things that we link to. In the past broadcast we talked about the marketplace. You can check that out by going into add an object, and then you can click get more objects. And you'll actually see that we've got a marketplace dialog which shows you these are the things, the official ones, the things that we release. Then you've also got the Game Creator Store, which is a huge library of currently predominantly GameGuru Classic assets, but they're starting to build up a collection of Max compatible assets. So that's a great place to find assets. You don't need to model import. They've already been prepared by the artist. All you've got to do is get them for free or download them and purchase them, and then you've got to access your store items. It automatically downloads them to the correct location, and you can drop them straight into your level. The artist has done all the work. It's when you go into things like Sketchfab. These are actually artists who don't necessarily know about GameGuru MAX. You can still import them, but they'll come in probably as a static or as an animated with just one looping animation, and that's where you start using the model importer. So maybe a built-in tutorial on this column, how you actually get a model from the outside world, bring it in, of a particular type. I think that would be a good built-in tutorial. But please, just as a reminder, stick it in the issues board as a feature request. That would be great and super helpful. Okay, next question. La 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 la. Synchromesh 64. 62, sorry. 64. You're getting old. Okay, could you make the structure editor open on a empty map? At the moment it opens on a mountain if you happen to be there, and it's not very usable there. It could be usable on a mountain if you've first flattened the mountain. So, you know, you want to do like a monastery on top of a mountain, and then you want to do a structure right on top of there. I think just forcing the terrain to disappear when you do the structure editor. Kind of know what you mean though. It's like the structure editor, it's like you want to edit your building in isolation. Finish editing it, then save it, give it an icon and a name, and then drop it in as an object. It's just that we're not bothering to do a lot of new work on the structure editor whilst we're thinking about something that's substantially better. So it would just be like throwaway code if we worked on it like that. But if you can see a way to do it really simply so you get the ease that you're looking for, because yes, you're right, a couple of people still use the structure editor, without you having to do the rigmarole of going all the way around the houses to do the same thing, please let me know. If there's a nice shortcut that won't be a lot of work to code, but will save you time and effort, do let me know. But I didn't realise that many people using the structure editor. That's probably my bottom line on that one. Okay, looking for a question, and it's from the 8-bit generation. My generation. Are we going to see a building tool system like the one in a GameGuru Classic? Building tool system. I suppose again that refers to the structure editor. Just go into the edit settings, developer, tick that first left tick box. You'll see the legacy structure editor, click that. That is what you actually have in GameGuru Classic. If you mean the F9 mode, where you actually go into test game and you can just drop objects down whilst you're practically playing the game, no plans to add that right now in GameGuru MAX. Reason is we're not emulating anything that you saw in Classic, because we have a really good idea. I'm just going to give you a clue, but I'm not going to go into details because I still need to flesh it out and design it and think if it's still a good idea. It's called live editing. The idea that there isn't really a distinguishing line between the editor and playing the game. So you could be playing the game, you could just stop playing the game at that point, have access to literally everything that the editor does, add some more stuff, change some more stuff, carry on playing the game. You don't have to start the game from scratch. That's the general philosophy of live editing. I think it's super powerful. I mean, any programming will tell you the time you've lost making a change and then running something from the beginning, getting back to where you was, making another change, running it from the beginning, making a change. I think we spend more time doing that than actually creating stuff or fixing stuff. And live editing is a potential way we can skip that whole step. Productivity then jumps up by an order of magnitude I dare not dream of. But it's an absolute replacement to the old F9 mode. It's a better system and it's more integrated into Max, but it's down the road. Just wanted to give you a clue so you don't have to despair that you'll never see the F9 mode again. Something better, I hope, will be along in the not too distant future. Questions. Who's got the questions? The next question mark is from AppGameKit. One of our products is asking a question. Will you be moving to DX12? Fortunately, because we sit on the Wicked engine, we have that option. We're currently on DX11 because that's the one that we've been working on for nearly 2 years, and it's the one that works. And we've tested it on a lot of systems, and thanks to our community, tested it on even more systems. DX12, it's not a new toy. It's been out many years. A lot of graphics cards now support it quite well. But it's a tentative technology for us. We still need to do lots of testing to make sure that we can sit comfortably on it and not cause more harm than good. So bear with us on that question. We are looking at it, and it's one of the reasons we chose Wicked Engine, because we have the option to make that step, or rather, that leap into using DirectX 12. So bear with me on that question. May have more news for you in the next couple of months. Hopefully it will be good news. Next question from Tom. Yeah, I'm also really looking forward to VR. Is it very nice to be able to learn the software before it arrives though? Yeah, just create levels. There's some levels that I've been playing, like in the demo hub. If I just come out of the marketplace for a second and out of the object library and come back out of that level and back into the hub. This one, Trapped. I'd love to play that in VR. It's going to be so creepy, especially with the proper 3D sound that already exists in the software. But when you got VR, there'll be stuff creeping around behind you. So yeah, just start making your games as normal in the current version of GameGuru MAX. Then you get to replay all the demos and all the stuff that you've made when VR becomes available. And it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. I am a bit of a VR nut. I kind of play down my passion for it because not everyone is into VR, but I kind of am. Okay, question. Another question. Checking the clock. Yeah, we're fine. We're okay on the clock. Looking for a question mark though, that's what I'm really looking for. Okay, we got one. This is from Christian Wilson. Atlee, the Shadow Master of games, I'm trying to get the email be increased to 3 gigabytes from 500 meg. If I cannot, how would you want me to get those files to you? If I am indeed speaking to Shadow Master of Game, I fixed your bug. It's related to using old legacy assets, and some of the strings stored inside the X file to DBO converter confused the texture scanner when you save a level. It was a little nasty. It's a two-part problem. We could have fixed it by changing the DBOs, but by the point you're on your project now, you already have those DBOs with the extremely weird strings inside them. So this Friday's build of GameGuru MAX accounts for that strangeness, and you will no longer get the crash when you save your levels that use custom legacy or Lord knows where you got them from assets. And so you can carry on with your game project. So don't worry about sending me any more files. You weren't alone. There were two other people who had similar issues. We managed to get to the problem, reproduce it. It's great. It's fixed. Wonderful. So get that version on Friday, or switch yourself to the EXP version on Steam. If we put out a build before, you'd probably get it before Friday. So hopefully you'll put a smile back on your face and carry on with your game design. A Spazzy Life says marketplace again ... yawn. Well, would you like to do the next broadcast? I'm trying my best, you know. Okay, next question. A3 dirt list question mark. What's the time frame on when we will be able to edit and make your own biomes, booms, trees, grasses? Yeah, we've talked about that as well. We hinted at skyboxes and custom terrain textures, but we didn't mention, but we have in previous broadcasts, the idea that you can add your own biomes. Now, what am I talking about? Let me show you a little quick. Let's create a new project, actually. So create a new project, call it biome, create that, go straight to the terrain generator. These are the biomes. So you've got plains, deserts, where you can change. Oh, it's like changing some spiky. not very. The desert's supposed to be nice and fluffy and roundy, not spiky. And then the forests, Arctic snow, canyons, mountainous, rainforest with lots of dangly vein, and then of course the empty one. So the question really is, when can we create our own of these? I think we've covered a lot of the bases on all the different kind of world styles. But I suppose you'd want a button underneath here, much like you'd see in Add New Particle or Add New whatever it will be, which says Add New Biome. And when you select it, you'll actually be able to give it a name, make your own settings, choose. Because effectively, if I go to View Advanced Settings, you see all of these? All of these are what actually determine what you see here. And there's more settings you don't even see here, such as the textures that are being chosen, when one texture transitions to another, when the water the plane appears, what sky is chosen, the atmospheric environmental effects. All of those things are already stored in a project file, but it's pretty mysterious. If we had like create new biome where we expose literally everything, then at the bottom you can save your own biome and then it adds it to the shortlist at the top. I think that'd be a really great addition. Why do I think it's a really great addition? Because it means you can share that extra biome choice with everyone in the community. That can actually be in a folder somewhere. You can scan for it, include it in the terrain generator, and people can have their own, not just their own settings like this, but associated with a new texture set. Maybe a biome that we've not thought of yet. I certainly think in the future we want biomes for city centres, urban areas, where it's all concrete jungle, and who knows what else. So yeah, that will join the list of when we start adding those customized things. So add your own thing, and it adds it to the GameGuru MAX tool chain, and then in the future you just go in and click the things that you've preset, because ultimately the objective is a game that's unique. Everything looks different, everything's using your own stuff, so people can recognise that it was created in GameGuru MAX. Now it's a bad thing, but maybe you'd want to hide the fact that it's a game created without writing a single line of code, when the other people would think you're cheating. Okay, looking for a question, and I think we found one. It's right down here. This is from Tom. Do you have any plans to make the AI much better? Absolutely. In fact, yeah, I can't tell you that, can I? Yes. Expect more AI in more ways than you might first suspect. But I'm not happy. I mean, if you watch, I think it was broadcast 98 or 7. The one where I ran through the competition, one of the competition winners, there were things happening there that I didn't like and I wanted to improve upon, and that's all related to AI. And AI ultimately is what makes a game fun. And unless we get that right for version 1, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks or how fast it is or how easy it is to make levels. If the games that you produce out of the other end of the sausage machine aren't fun or aren't, don't feel like a modern game, then there isn't really a point. We want this to be a game maker for everyone, not just for anyone to bury themselves in scripts and animation systems for the rest of their lives. So absolutely, emphatic yes, AI will continue to be improved all the way through to version 1. Here's a question, this is from CJ. Will GG Max's latest update be able to cook breakfast, make cups of tea and run Doom? I think I can run Doom. I'm not sure about the other things. You could do a virtual cup of tea and virtual breakfast in your virtual building. Certainly. But you wouldn't get much nourishment from it. You might start to do that for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I suppose, CJ, that is your hint at this is the first silly question. And you said, Lee, that after all the sensible questions and the silly questions start appearing, that's when I should really start winding down. So let me do some maths. 3 minutes past 7. And now it's, what would we say? It's about 40 minutes past 8. So my maths is terrible these days. So it's been 60 minutes and then 30 minutes, that's 90 minutes, 95, 96, 97. 97 minutes? Right. I'm not going to ask how many more minutes I should talk for because we've got a time lag. It'd be great if we could hit it exactly 100 minutes, but I really don't want to get in the way. The last question, should we get one more question in? Just in case it is actually a serious question that was pushed out the way with a silly question. This is from Marbot. Can we have a mask for the terrain generator that tells it to make the terrain only within the mask? Yeah, that's a great question. We had plans to do that. We're still going to do it. The idea is it's perfect for islands. So imagine you've got your procedural terrain, but over the top of that is this mask, which then fades out the edges of your terrain into the ocean. That way you get all that lovely procedural terrain, but when you walk north, south, east and west, you eventually hit coast. And it's just sea and sky after that. That's something we don't have. It's not easily done right now, but a nice little mask as an additional property of the terrain generator. Yeah, that was on our roadmap. We just ran out of time for early access. Please add that as a feature request on the issues board. And thanks for the reminder as well. Almost forgot about that. Spent so much time putting the import height map that everybody wanted. Totally forgot that I wanted the terrain mask feature, which will come in really useful. Especially if you can import your own masks with different shapes. So you can actually define the shape of your island just with a single mask that you've imported. So I think I am probably hitting that mark now, aren't I? It's 60 minutes plus 40 minutes, that's 100 minutes. And that's the end of broadcast 100. Thanks very much for all of your patience. and your questions. I didn't believe we'd actually get all the questions to fill up the whole 100 minutes, but we have. So just one final reminder that we're going to focus on bugs first, and then once the bugs get to an appreciable level, then we'll start switching over to lots and lots of feature requests that please continue to post them in the issues board. I shall be back next Wednesday for broadcast 101, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. Thank you very much for tuning in, and again, thank you very much for your patience. I think I quite enjoyed this. We've got proper time to answer questions, and I'll see you all next week. Until then, goodbye.